Hey, hey,
Mm.
I believe we are live. I am here with Matt Wolfe, the one and only, the YouTuber that we all know and love. Matt, it's so great to have you with me here at the Consonant Scale channel.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to do this and have a fun conversation today.
Yes, we were talking before I hit record, and it really just feels like two people sitting down nerding out about AI. And we could probably do this for hours and hours. And I was like, hold on, let's hit record.
Right.
I love it. We have a bunch of people joining already. I'd love to know in the comments where you guys are watching from. We have Farnaz, I believe you're in Armenia, Jessica from Ohio, Sylvia. So let us know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always fun to see people around the world join a live stream. It never gets old. I bet for you too, Matt. You see so many on yours.
Yeah, no, I've actually only done 2 live streams on my YouTube channel, but both of them were a blast. I want to try to make it like a monthly thing because they're so much fun.
Oh, good idea. Yes. Well, I also love that you put so much work into what you put out there. You know, something we were talking about before I hit record as well is how I think you really notice when creators care about their work and care about what they're talking about. And I see that in every video from you. And it's just amazing to me the work you put into one single video because of all you're talking about. And then it's like on the green screen behind you. And just like, whoa, Matt is really serious about this. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. I mean, I pretty much spend all of my waking hours playing around with AI or watching YouTube videos about AI or reading the latest research papers, or it's pretty much the only rabbit hole I spend my time in, with probably to a fault. But yeah, I love it. I have a lot of time nerding out about this stuff, so wouldn't have it any other way.
Love it. That's amazing. Well, if you guys don't know, Matt is actually our headline speaker at Content Hacker Live. We are so excited that we got him to come. And he's excited because it's going to be his first time at South by Southwest. So you're spending the week with your wife.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
explore
my
that
wife
as
and I are gonna
well.
go out. It's gonna be a
Yay.
blast. I love Austin. Been to Austin a handful of times, just never for South by Southwest.
Oh, amazing. Well, I may actually not be in Austin much longer because we are starting an office in Arizona and we all decided we might be moving.
Oh.
There's that. But I do love Austin. I've been here for 7 years. I
Mhm.
started down by the coast, moved up to Austin, then Round Rock, and now I'm in Georgetown in the hill country. It's beautiful. You know, kind of escaped the city, but I can still go to the city, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice. You can't beat the food and the diversity in Austin.
Oh,
And
yeah.
South by is going to be an incredible experience. 30,000 people come in from all places in the world in the US for South by. So we just get an influx of traffic and people. The city kind of shuts down. It's all foot traffic. There's pop-ups, like complete buildings will turn into a venue for AMC did a Walking Dead, and like the entire building was like The Walking Dead, and they shut off the lights. I mean, it was a thing. So that's
Yeah.
what you get to experience at South by. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. And I mean, anybody that is planning on going who's on the stream, make sure you book your hotel. That's something that I learned yesterday, that those hotels are going fast. So if you haven't done
Get
it,
your
do it.
ticket, book your hotel. You heard it from Matt. And John, I noticed you're here on manning the channel with me. Would you drop the link to get event tickets? Because we definitely want you guys to be able to do that. If you haven't, contenthacker.com/event. We are selling tickets every single day. So the tickets are going. And just like Matt said, he booked his hotel yesterday. Hotels are going too. So you definitely want to get in on this. I would say sooner rather than later. Be here. Let's learn about the future of AI, grow our businesses in this completely reshaped new world. Matt, something we were talking about before we hit live is how, as a writer, I was evaluating the landscape of just how AI is going to affect what I do in my work. And
Mhm.
at Continent Scale, the reason I'm working here is in all the tools I was researching. I was asking myself which tool stack could reduce the amount of work, if not to a point of nearly replacing me. And you had a great point. You're like, the writer won't be replaced, but it's like, what amount of work can we replace? Can we remove from our day to day? And
Right.
Content Scale in particular, for me, it saves 7 hours out of my 8-hour blogging process. And I know we have the affiliate marketing dude, Marcus, here. He's using it, putting out thousands of blogs with Continent Scale, saving so much time. But I'd love to talk to you too, Matt, about the future of AI and how it's going to impact work, because that is like one of the biggest conversations right now.
Right.
It's like, I mean, on one hand, is it like, are humans still needed? On the other hand, it's like, well, how can I build a more profitable business?
For sure.
So wherever you want to start.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the point about like what what tools are going to be out there that might replace me. I think when it comes to writing and creative pursuits, it's going to be a while before AI replaces, the opinions of humans, right? AI
Mm,
is going to be great at going and helping do a lot of the research, right? So if you put 8 hours into research and then that final hour into writing it, well, that first 8-hour piece of the research can now be minimized down to probably 30, 45 minutes, right? So
mm,
I
yeah,
really think when it comes to writing specifically, we're still going to want to hear from other humans. We're not going to want the
mm,
opinions of AI,
yeah.
at least not for a long time.
Mhm,
So I really think it cuts down on the workload on the research. One of the ways that I love to use AI for content creation is to let AI sort of write the rough draft, right?
mm,
Go do the
yeah.
research for me, write the rough draft for me, and then I come in and polish it and add my own opinions and add my own little, sort of dry comedic flair to it and do that sort of thing, right? So I think it's going to be a while before AI totally replaces a lot of these more creative pursuits like writing and creating videos and podcasting and things like that.
Yes. It seems like it's all the mundane work that we didn't wanna do anyway, that it's like,
Exactly.
so if you're doing that, maybe find something you love, like Matt and I love writing adapted to this AI tool that I can get behind, content at scale, and now, Matt, you're YouTubing all about AI. It's gonna be hard for AI to step in and replace that, I mean, just because we have adapted to AI. So there's that as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, when it comes to YouTube as well, like YouTube has been really helpful in that sort of research phase, and for me, a lot of the titles and the ideas for thumbnails and I've got an idea for a video. Help me outline the flow of the video. I use AI for all of that, but then when it comes to actually pressing record, it's still me on camera. It's still my thoughts. It's still,
Mm, yeah.
I'm not following a script most of the time. I'm just following an outline that maybe AI helped me draft.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Well, if you guys have any questions for Matt, let me know in the comments. I'd love to take some user questions, audience questions for him because I know just like you said, Matt, it's kind of rare we have you live. So this is a treat. But for me, a question I have for you, I'd love to hear how you actually got into AI, started the YouTube channel, like a little backstory there. How'd that all happen?
Yeah, so it's a interesting story. So I actually started content marketing almost 15 years ago. I actually quit. Well, I started content marketing 17 years ago. I started my first blog back in 2007. And then I quit
Wow.
my job to go full time into content marketing in 2009. So
Hmm.
making content and doing digital marketing and that sort of thing, I've been doing full time now for 14 years. If you go back to my very first video on YouTube, it was published back in 2009. I've deleted most of my videos between 2009 and 2022 because they weren't super relevant to AI and what I talk about now. But I did leave that very first video on there so people could go all the way back and see where it started, and you could see how uncomfortable I am on camera and
Hmm.
and how rough it was in the very beginning.
I love
I,
hearing that you weren't
yeah,
always polished.
yeah, I think it's good to kind of show that, right? Like, how many people love to
Mhm.
go to like Mr. Beast's YouTube channel and scroll all the way back to the very first video he made and went just to see how did this all
Yeah.
start, right? So that's kind of the reason I left the first couple videos that I ever published on the channel. So that's how long I've been doing content marketing. But between 2009 and 2022, I was sort of all over the place in the digital marketing world. I had an agency that did content marketing for other people. I did media buying. I did, click funnels, landing page building for people. We did a lot of affiliate marketing. I had 3 different podcasts over that time. I had a whole bunch of online courses. I had a course called
Hmm.
the WordPress Classroom, which later rebranded to learntoblog.com. And then I sold that business in 2015. So I did all of the things in the digital
Mhm.
marketing world and explored all of that stuff. In 2017, I started a podcast with a co-host, Joe Fear, called the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. And me and Joe did that podcast all the way up until uh, I guess the end of 2022 was when I broke away from that podcast. He's still running it to this day. But in 2021, we started to explore AI on the podcast. We came
Hmm.
across GPT-3. a lot of people don't even realize that GPT-3 goes back that far. But in 2021, we were
Wow.
actually playing around with GPT-3 and having it help us with copywriting at the time. We were doing our agency stuff and content marketing, and GPT-3 was our sort of like secret weapon to help write blog posts for people and to help do our copy on our sales pages and ClickFunnels pages and things like that. And so we were actually doing podcast episodes on Hustle and Flowchart in 2021 about how you can use AI to do your copy and your content marketing. But in 2021, nobody seemed to really care about AI, right? It wasn't that hot of
Yep.
a topic. It was sort of a rabbit hole that people didn't care to go down. But
Mm.
I never really lost my interest in AI. And then in about mid 2022, somewhere around April of 2022, I came across Midjourney, and then I came across Stable Diffusion whenever that came out. I don't even remember when Stable Diffusion was first available, but I remember playing with Midjourney first around April of 2022. And then I started making some videos on the YouTube channel about these various AI art tools. And to that point, my YouTube channel had maybe 1,200 subscribers on it. Nobody was really paying attention to that channel at all. So I started making these videos about like these AI art tools that were bubbling up, and some of them started to do really well. A channel that was getting 100 views per per video was now getting 20, 30, 40,000 views on some of these AI art tools. And so it was around mid 2022 that I went, I really should start doing more of this AI stuff, because when I make content on YouTube about it, people gravitate towards it. So around October of 2022 was when I decided to just make the leap and go all in on AI. That's when I stepped away from the podcast. I started making more and more content on AI. When ChatGPT came out in November, I made a video about ChatGPT. That video went and got 1.2 million views. And I went, okay, now I'm really onto something. I need to double down. And so for the last month of 2022 and the first month of 2023, I made a new AI video every single day, because there was new
Wow.
tools bubbling up and new ways to use ChatGPT and new ways to use Stable Diffusion. So I just went all in, made a video a day. And in January of 2023, my channel went from about 5,000 subscribers at the time to about 105,000 subscribers in a single month. And from
Wow.
there, it's just been kind of that that growth ever since.
That's incredible. So you were definitely an early adapter. I'd say early adapter, because you were using content AI and content before it was even cool. In 2021, nobody wanted to hear that.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought
please.
it was the most amazing thing. I was like, this thing is basically writing my blog posts for me and writing my copy for me, and nobody wants to hear about it. What's the deal?
It's funny because that year, 2021, I sold my writing agency. I had grown it to 100 people, and I'll tell you, it was doing some of the best revenue it had ever done. Sometimes doing like just $40,000 weeks out of nowhere. So it was really hard to sell.
Mm.
And at the time, everyone was telling me AI really isn't going to impact what you do at all. And I'm like, but is it? And I am
Yeah,
really glad
it
looking
is
back
kind
that
of
I sold.
interesting. I think a lot of people sort of had the assumption that AI was going to take over a lot of the more manual data entry, those kinds of jobs first. Nobody really saw it taking over the creative jobs, but it was sort of the
Yeah.
other way around. It was the creative stuff that it seemed to take over first. And we're just now kind of figuring out how to get these AI tools to take over some of the more manual labor stuff. So very interesting how that played out, honestly.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, that it kind of came for the creative work first. And I've seen it really win on the tech side, to the point where I think Amazon is experimenting with publishing completely AI written books. And they think their bet is on those AI written books outperforming human authors. Have you heard of that? Any thoughts on that one?
I actually haven't heard that. I heard at one point Amazon was starting to sort of crack down on people writing books with AI and publishing them, because people were
Hmm.
writing books on I don't remember the exact topic, but it was a topic that if you got what it was mushrooms, right? Somebody
Mm,
let AI write a
yeah.
book on how to go out into the wild and forage for your own mushrooms, which if you pick the wrong mushrooms and eat them, it could be very, very dangerous, if not deadly. And people were having AI write books about this. Amazon saw that, went, "Ooh, this is getting scary," and started to crack down and started to force people to let people know when the books were written by AI, so that people kind of knew getting into it that this was an AI generated book. but I didn't know that Amazon was betting on actually creating a whole bunch of AI related books. I could see it going that way, but I also feel like when I read books, one of the main reasons I read books is I want those additional anecdotes. I want the author's opinion. I want those
Mhm.
additional insights on top of the facts. And I'm not sure AI is quite that good at that stuff yet, but it won't be too far off before it is.
That's a good point. Yes, and this was for the fiction category. So
Oh,
just like you
fiction. Oh, that
said,
makes more sense
yeah,
then.
yeah, for self-help, medical,
Yeah,
knowledge, information. Yeah, you don't want somebody picking the wrong mushroom that AI told them to pick and then dying.
exactly.
That's not good. And it's
Yeah,
interesting because I'm self-publishing a book in February. I publish one every year, and I saw like as soon as this January, logging into my KDP account, there's a little ticker now. You can select was this written in part or in full by AI. So Amazon does want to know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting that they're pulling that.
Yeah, and I don't think they actually put on the Amazon listing if it was written by AI yet or not, but I think eventually that's kind of the plan is to sort of let you know before you purchase that this book was AI. So if that's gonna affect your decision to purchase, they're gonna let you know.
Yes. Yes, true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out because, I think consumer trust is a big thing to consider. People don't fully trust this stuff, but at the same time, if it's so human-like and they don't even know that AI had a part in it, they might not even realize.
Yeah,
So it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see like what actually happens with AI labeling, which I know TikTok's doing a label on the video platform. You have to use it if you're doing like deep fakes because that can actually get you penalized on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's sort of this scary area too, especially coming into an election year, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not somebody that likes to talk about politics, and I'm not going to talk about politics here. I just know that next year, when the election stuff starts happening, it's probably going to be a little bit crazy.
Mhm.
There's going to be a little
Yeah.
bit of I don't know what's real and what's not. So that's going to be an interesting time.
Yes. Good point. Farnaz has a question for you, Matt. What is your favorite AI video tool and prompt?
Oh, that's a good question. So, as far as prompt, I don't know if I have a specific favorite prompt because I'm just constantly experimenting. Every time I think I have
Mm.
like an ideal prompt formula, I figure out better ones. But as far as AI video goes, I've been really enjoying playing with Pika 1.0. It's a AI text to video tool. It also does image to video, and they just recently rolled in video in painting and out painting, which means you can upload a video and select just a section of the video and say just change this, right? So I made a demonstration not too long ago where I uploaded a video of myself and then just highlighted the area around my face and said put aviator sunglasses on me, and then I highlighted the area on my head and said give me a green mohawk, and the video is of me talking, and the video completely plays through like normal. It just changes the one area that you wanted it to change. That's the in painting. The out painting is where, let's say, maybe you have a 9 by 16 portrait view of a video, and you want it to fit in a 16 by 9 wide landscape view. Well, you can plug it into Pika 1.0, and Pika will fill in all of the gaps and fill in the rest of the video. It's like Adobe Photoshop's generative fill, but for video. So Pika has been really good for editing videos and also creating pretty good looking text to video. So I've been playing with that one quite a bit. Runway ML is really good for text to video and image to video as well. They have a thing called Motion Brush now where you can upload a still image, select just a part of the image, and it will animate just the piece that you plugged in. So let's say you have like a picture of a cup of coffee and there's some steam rising out of it, but you want the steam to animate, but nothing else in the picture to animate. You can sort of just highlight the steam, click animate, and it will just
Hmm.
animate the steam on the coffee. So those are a couple tools that I really like playing with. But when it comes to prompts, I mean, that's just all totally experimental, right? That's
Mm. Yeah.
I'm trying different stuff every single time I prompt. So I don't have any specific prompt that I like for that kind of stuff.
Hmm. That's a good point about prompts. One thing that I think the team at Continent Scale is doing really well, we actually have, it's interesting because the question on my list or discussion point was to talk about the roles that are occurring because of AI.
Hmm.
And so in our company, we have an AI director, right? So was that a role just a couple of years ago? crazy to see what's opening up. We have like the potential restructuring of jobs, but also like so much new opportunity. But one of the roles here is just studying how do we work on our tools so that the user actually has a promptless experience. Because what we've noticed are a lot of users, they're lost at that stage. Well, how do I actually add project context? Well, what do I do to
Yeah.
train it on my voice? And if they could just click a button instead. So we have engineers on the back end of our tool actually creating all of that so it works in a way where it feels like a promptless experience. Because you're right, it's like almost impossible sometimes to say, oh, this is the one prompt to rule them all. While I wish we could do that,
Yeah.
it's difficult.
For sure. And my, back at the beginning of 2023, the term prompt engineering was floating around a lot, and people were saying prompt engineering is going to be like one of the jobs of the future. And my thoughts on prompt engineering have sort of gone back and forth over the
Mm,
course of 2023. At the beginning of 2023, I was like, yes, everybody should learn how to be a prompt engineer. And then later on, I went, you know what? I don't think these companies really want people to have to be engineers to use their tools. They want people to be able to just
mm,
enter simple language to get a response. And now my sort of current thought on it is both are sort of important, right? I think
mm.
the
Yeah.
prompt engineers are more the people that are sort of building the plumbing underneath. And the general user, the person that's going to go use Chat GPT or Midjourney or a tool like that, they're not necessarily going to need to be a prompt engineer. They're going to be able to go and type, create an image of a cat drinking coffee on the beach, and it will generate a really good image of that without you needing to engineer and add a whole bunch of extra
Mm,
text to the prompt, right? Same with like Chat GPT. I think it's going to be a more of this conversational back and forth to get to the outcome you want, as opposed to writing some really, really creative prompt. However, I do think prompt engineering is going to be important for the people that are sort of building the AI tools that we're
mm.
using, right?
Yeah.
If you look at something like Chat GPT, they just recently rolled out this function called GPTs, where
Mhm.
GPTs are this, you can give it this additional context, this additional information, some additional custom instructions. And then when people use that GPT, it's sort of more dialed in and tailored to the specific use case of that GPT. Prompt engineers are necessary to build that GPT, but prompt engineers shouldn't be necessary to go and use the GPT, right? So I
Mm.
think the prompt
Yeah.
engineers are almost like the developers, the coders of the future, right? If you want to go and use a
Mm.
website, you don't need to know HTML to use the website, but to create the website, you do need to know HTML. So I think prompt engineering's kind of that same
Mm.
sort of in that same sort of realm. The prompt engineer is the builder underneath. The end user shouldn't have to be an engineer to use prompts.
That's a super great point. I would add to that in January and February, whenever I saw like prompt engineering, just like you become this term, and you scroll Facebook and it's like ad after ad for course after course. Prompt engineering is the new overnight millionaire. Well, don't know about that. I'm not gonna click that link. But what we're seeing as the year continues to go on, especially at Continent Scale, getting to work with thousands of businesses, is a lot of users that, let's say, like the marketing team at Dell, for example,
Mhm.
they're not going to know how to open up ChatGPT and use it in a way where you could get like a successful email. And to create this idea of everyone needing to become a prompt engineer, you kind of lose other skills that might still be critical in a reshaped way. Like this idea of AIO we have, where the writer becomes the optimizer of that blank
Mhm.
draft now replaced by AI. Starting with a blank draft, that's the Stone Age. Don't do it anymore.
Right, right.
But to create this idea that everybody on the marketing team at Dell, for example, needs to become a prompt engineer almost creates this fallacy of a role that isn't what is matched to the end goal. And we see like in Samsung, they actually had to ban ChatGPT because their employees didn't understand that when you feed a prompt, you're actually sharing proprietary data to the LLM accidentally if that's in
Right.
your prompt. And they didn't know that. So it's just like, I do see that recalibrating, just like you said, where we have a inside team that needs to become a prompt engineer if you're actually building the thing. But on the outside, if you're using AI to get a result, do you have to become a prompt engineer or is it about using the right tool? So I think
Right.
that's a great point.
Right. And I think a lot of these tools are just going to build better and better user interfaces, right? I think a lot of the prompt engineering from the end user point is going to be just the toggles that you switch on or off, right? I mentioned like Runway and Pika Labs, right? In Pika Labs, you can just turn on a toggle for I want the camera movement to be to the left, or turn on a
Mm,
toggle to I
yeah.
want the camera movement to be a rotation, right? By just flipping that switch, Pika Labs is still doing the prompt engineering underneath, but from the end user perspective, you're just toggling a switch.
Yes, that is very similar to some functions that we've built inside Consonant
Right.
Scale. We actually had somebody ask, can you turn off the Google SERP crawler so we can create thought leadership content? Because how you use our tool, you upload just from a single keyword, that's your input source, a video URL, and that's all you need. But she was like, we need to turn off that SERP analyzer. So we actually built her a button. So it's just clicking that button on and off. And it's just such an easier user interface. I remember when I was having to memorize Midjourney prompts and I was creating blog images, and I had to remember this weird phrase. I think it was AR16 colon
Right.
5. I'm
Right,
like, I'm
right.
never going to remember that to get the right size out of Midjourney. And I still like don't remember it. Have to have it saved deep in my notes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a little Midjourney trick too, just since we're on the topic. You can actually there's a command in Midjourney called prefix where you can actually turn on a prefix where every single time you do a prompt, it will append whatever you save into this prefix at the end of the prompt. So if you always want your images to be an aspect ratio 16:9, you can type the command prefix AR16 colon 9, and then every prompt you generate from then on out will actually that will be appended to the end. So you can sort of do your own prompt engineering once to get it to be easier for you in the future. Although I do
Yeah.
think Midjourney is getting to the point, like, I don't know if you've seen the new Midjourney Alpha website that's coming. It's basically a website with a bunch of toggles, so you don't actually have to do any of that anymore.
Oh.
But the only people that get to use it are people that have generated 10,000 images or more with Midjourney, and so it hasn't rolled out to us normal people who don't generate that many images yet.
That's definitely not me. Yeah, that's interesting though. That's a good point. How so many AI tools are moving towards that easier interface, thus eliminating an idea that 6 months ago, I think most of marketing gurus thought would be the next big job. So
Right,
that's
right.
really interesting.
Well,
Good
I mean,
point.
that's kind of the role of the marketer, right? Is to
Yeah.
is to get you to believe that this is the next big thing so that you'll buy their thing.
Good point. One thing you shared in your journey that I think is such a good point, I wanted to highlight. I know we have several people here building businesses. Jackie Alcorn, I saw her in the comments. She has a website and she's building that up with blog content. Something you said, you got successful so quickly, but you highlighted something where you were one of the first to a trend that absolutely accelerated this. But when you found that trend and you saw that bubble bursting where it was like, whoa, or
Mhm.
the climax coming, you did a daily video. You really did something that I think we underestimate. And it's interesting because our our brand is actually called At Scale
Right.
because we do it at scale, but we also remind people like it's not going to be one blog that gets you to the top of Google. It's going to be scaled content, topical authority. So could you speak to that just from your YouTube channel a little bit, how consistency and putting out content at scale basically was a part of your journey to that success? I mean, you're at a tremendous place now.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just a matter of me feeling like I need to double down, right? I was making YouTube videos for so long, right? From
Mm.
2009 all the way up until 2020, well, end of 2022 until I started talking about AI. And all of my videos were, 100 views here, 200 views there. I think a really good video might do 1,000 views, and I'd be blown away that it did that. But when I started making a couple AI videos and those AI videos were getting thousands of views every single time, I just had to double down. I just went, okay, let's see if this is just a one hit wonder or if this is going to continue to work. So I made a video the next day, and the next day, okay, this video did pretty good as well. And then a video the
Mm.
next day. And then eventually I did the ChatGPT video, which was, the biggest growth lever on my channel, doing over 1 million views, right? And so I just in that point, it was I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but there was almost like a fear of losing relevance if I didn't just like keep on it. And it was also at
Mm.
this time at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, where AI was just the talk of the town, right? Like everybody was talking about AI at that time. It was all over the news. It was, every digital marketer was out there talking about how AI should be part of your marketing. And
Yeah.
so I didn't want to be, I didn't want to fall behind. So I just kind of went all in and doubled down on making more and more and more content. But I think during that phase, I also really, it was like rapid split testing of what content works and what content didn't work as well. Making a video
Mm,
every single
yeah.
day, I found out really, really quickly what types of videos on YouTube would really pop and what types of videos nobody seemed to care about. I figured out what types of thumbnails would really pop and what thumbnails just floundered, right? Same with titles. I was able to just crank out a ton of videos, but that phase was me just collecting data essentially, right? What
Mm,
works, what
yeah.
doesn't, how do I make my videos better? How do I pick up the pace so that people don't get bored? How do I increase retention? Just that process of doing it at scale was amazing for sort of collecting data on what works. And to this day, that's still the strategy. Let's kind of keep making the videos that seem to work, but maybe once or twice a month, let's plug something in there that we haven't tried yet and see if maybe this outperforms some of the videos that are working now. Let's see if I can find a new growth lever that works even better than the videos I've been putting out. So it's kind of like just this rapid iteration and rapid split testing of content. And that was really the growth strategy that I used. But saying all that, I do have to sort of qualify it a little bit with the fact that I was doing digital marketing from 2007 all the way up until the YouTube channel sort of exploded, right? So like it was an overnight success that took me 14 years to get there.
Mm,
But
yeah.
during those
Mm,
14 years, I was learning about copywriting. I read like every book by every famous copywriter. I was learning about video production and how to improve my videos. I was learning about landing pages and graphic design and email list building. Throughout this whole process, I built an email list of 150,000 subscribers that are interested in AI, but I
mm,
was testing various list building strategies and lead magnets and things like that for 14 years. So, by the time AI hit, I was able to kind of go, all right, this is it. This is the moment. This is, what I've been learning for the last 14 years. This is the thing that I finally get to apply it all to.
I love that. So just learning, 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 and then going for it.
Hmm.
It's critical. And that's so similar to how we approach blogging and how even when I ran the writing agency, when I consulted clients, it's like sometimes I would tell them, don't measure anything but production for the first 8 months because that hurdle is, well, I need to have the perfect piece of content before I hit publish. And do you know how many companies didn't hit publish because of that?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
That's the temptation. But like you're such a great example of, doing this at scale and just creating gave me the actual path to analyze, oh, I have a winner and I can clearly see it. So it's just like speed to production. And something that's amazing is we have AI, which
Yep.
helps us get to production so much faster.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say early on, I mean, specific to YouTube and probably even things like blogging and podcasting, in the early days, quantity is probably more important than quality, but as you start to build an
Mm,
audience, I mean, the quantity
yeah.
will build the quality, right?
Oh, great
So
point.
I think if you do a lot of quantity in the beginning, you're gonna learn what works, what doesn't work. You're gonna get better at it, you're gonna get more comfortable with it, more confident with it. And so just that, you know, that doing all the quantity in the beginning, you're going to figure out what leads to the quality. And then as you build that audience, you can actually slow down on the quantity a little bit and pick up the pace on the quality, right? That's kind of how, that's the sort of evolution of my channel, right? I was doing a video every single day for 2 months. And then I went to, all right, I think I could slow it down a little bit. Let's do 5 videos a week and not drop new videos on the weekends. And then that built the audience a little more, and I learned a little bit more about what videos work. And then I went, okay, let's slow it down a little bit more. Let's go to 4 videos a week. And right now I'm sitting on 3 videos a week, and that seems to be the sort of optimal cadence for my channel. Some weeks I'll only do 2, but most weeks I do 3, and that seems to be pretty optimal for me. But I imagine as the audience grows and I figure out how to polish up the quality a little bit, I'll probably even be able to drop that down a little bit more and focus more and more on quality. But I feel like it's just this sort of scale where over time you can kind of shift the scale more in favor of quality. But in the beginning, you probably should be focusing on quantity.
I love that. I can tell you that's you guys heard it from Matt. Take that as permission. It's okay to publish something mediocre to get to that next benchmark that you need to get to. But you can't get there unless you actually have quantity of something out there. I
Absolutely.
love that point. Great stuff, Matt. We have a couple of questions coming in. And guys, please drop your questions while we have Matt live. It's an honor to have him live here with us. So please ask away. We'll get to them. Marcus, affiliate marketing dude, who you may know, Matt. You may actually know. This is Marcus Campbell. I think he mentioned he knows you. So
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've met Marcus at a few events. I think he
nice.
knows my old co-host Joe Fear. I think a little bit better than him and I know each other. But we've definitely bumped into each other at a few events in the past. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So his question is, how does Matt use AI to stay on top of all the trends in the way he does? Marcus tries to stay on top of everything and just gets lost. There's so much data coming out daily. So how do you do it, Matt?
Well, for everybody else, they should just subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll keep you in the loop. But no, no, I'm happy to share how I stay in the loop.
That's my tip. Subscribe.
So the way I mean, quite honestly, I'm on a lot of AI newsletters, but my secret weapon is actually Feedly. I have a RSS reader called Feedly. They actually have an AI feature built into it called Feedly Leo. And what Feedly Leo is, it's like Google Alerts, but a more advanced AI driven version of Google Alerts. So you can go into Feedly, and inside of Feedly, I subscribe to a lot of the blogs, right? I subscribe to Google's blog, Microsoft's blog, OpenAI's blog, Adobe's blog, all the big companies that are advancing AI right now. I'm subscribed to all their blogs just on a normal RSS basis. But what Feedly Leo does is you can plug in some keywords like artificial intelligence, machine learning, stable diffusion, Midjourney, any sort of tool that I'm going to want to know if there's any news coming out around that keyword. And what Feedly Leo does is it scours the internet on a daily basis and finds all of the news websites that are talking about those keywords. And then over time, you can actually train your filter to better show you the results you want. So I log into Feedly Leo every single day, and it'll say, here's 200 news articles that feature artificial intelligence, machine learning, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll skim through the articles, and there's a little arrow that says, I want to see more like this. I want to see less like this. I want to see more like this. And over time, I train it to only show me the specific news that I care about. Every once in a while, it'll plug in news about Fortnite or something. And I'll be like, how is this relevant to what I'm trying to follow? Less like this. A lot of times it'll bring up articles that are very opinion based and less fact or news based, which, I want to hear other people's opinions, but that's not what I'm doing the research for in the moment. So less like that, right? Or when a news article comes up from TechCrunch or Bloomberg or New York Times about how this company is getting sued by authors because they're using, AI generated stuff in their work. I want to see more like that. So I actually trained this feed to give me the exact news that I want to see on a daily basis. Feedly also lets me subscribe to newsletters directly inside of Feedly. So I'm on a whole bunch of other people's AI newsletters as well, just to make sure I'm not missing anything that maybe they came across. But really, that Feedly tool is my secret weapon to staying in the loop all the time. And so when I make my Friday news videos, I'm just kind of using everything that I've stumbled across through keeping my finger on the pulse through Feedly. And like we mentioned before, you actually went live. What you mentioned I probably have like 18 hours of work into these Friday news videos, but the reality is I'm kind of keeping an eye on the news every single day and then sort of keeping note of news that I think is important. And then on Friday, when it comes to the news video, I'm just kind of going through the list of everything that I've collected throughout the week. So really there's only like, 4 interesting things per day that I really care about. But by the time Friday rolls around, that's 4 times 5. There's 20, 25 things that I want to talk about in my AI Friday recap.
That is amazing. Well, thanks for sharing some secret sauce there, the Feedly tip. That's really cool. Somebody said it's an excellent alternative to Google Alerts. Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a more user-friendly avenue to get your news in, because then you can give it feedback too. I like that.
Yeah, well, it combines sort of the Google Alerts. It combines RSS feed reader, so the blogs that you want to see every day, like the Googles or OpenAI blogs, And you can subscribe to newsletters. It'll actually give you a custom email address that you can go subscribe to newsletters with. And whenever they send a new newsletter, that shows up in your Feedly feed as well. So you just have one feed of newsletters, blogs that you follow, and then anything it finds on the internet, similar to like what a Google alert would do, all in one
Mm,
place.
amazing. Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no
We got
problem.
some good comments coming in. Somebody said that when he first mentioned the use of AI at the time to his business consultant, that person didn't think AI was a great idea. And now, a year later, that very person is offering training on the use of AI as a service in his organization.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common story we're going to be hearing. I mean, we're
Yes.
even seeing that with some of the big companies, right? Like
Mm,
early on, companies like Shutterstock and some of the stock photography sites were really, really fighting AI. And now some of those platforms have AI art generators built right into them, right? So a lot of the big
yeah.
companies who really, really resisted early on when it was starting to bubble up are now going, okay, this is probably something we should jump on board, right? Adobe, who has Photoshop, you would think they would be one of the most worried companies about AI because what do I need Photoshop for if I can just go to Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or DALL-E and generate any image I want? But instead of, sort of fighting AI, Adobe Photoshop went, let's build it right into Photoshop now. Let's build it
Mm,
right into Adobe
yeah.
Premiere. Let's build it into Illustrator. So, the companies that seem like they have the most to lose from AI are really, really gravitating towards it now and are actually winning because of it.
Great point. Yes. I remember last year when I was on stage in December and I was on stage at a digital marketer conference telling people to not use AI and use a human instead. And then we talked about this before we hit record, in January research, which tool is actually going to give me a working solution to this function that I need to do every day, which is blogging. ChatGPT, not great for the actual blog content, awesome for ideation strategy, but for the actual content generation, I couldn't find a solution that gave me research backed good content. Till I found
Mhm.
Content at Scale. It does all the research, does that in the app. So I was like, whoa, okay, this is a real solution. So for me, like that was what held me back is I couldn't find something that was a real solution. But I think as like the all these tools that are thinly veiled API calls to ChatGPT and nothing
Right.
better, as all that gets flattened out and we see like the 1% remain that are true functional solutions to the workplace, I think like we're going to see a lot of adapters who maybe didn't jump on that trend because they just couldn't find a good solution yet.
Yeah,
What are your
I
thoughts
I
on that?
I totally agree. I think the people that were scared of it in the beginning are slowly starting to migrate over. They're seeing it more and more for what I think it is, which is a co-pilot, a co-author,
Mm,
a
yeah.
co-producer, whatever you want to call it, depending on what you're doing. It's they're at the moment they're designed to be assistive tools, not replacement tools. And I think over time, especially in the early days of AI, the next, year or two, it's only going to be more and more of that sort of assistive tool, but it's going to replace some jobs that nobody wants to do, right? It's going to replace a lot of the manual data entry jobs that nobody wants to do. In robotics, robotics combined with AI, it's going to replace a lot of the unsafe jobs that, put humans in harm's way
Mm,
when they're doing them, right? So I think at least in the short term, the near future, next couple of years, AI is our sort of co-author, our co-assistant, and I think that's how people should see it because that's how it's being designed to be used right now.
mm. Yes, great point. It's interesting how it feels like the software and the physical side of this are both just coming to this place where we're going to see just mass AI adoption because this is so rapidly accelerating. On one hand, it's like you can generate entire pieces of content now in seconds that rival a human writer. And
Yeah,
then here's Tesla creating a humanoid that could potentially clean your home one day.
right.
Are we going to walk side by side with the robots soon?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's probably not too far off that that'll happen. I think in the
Mm,
beginning, it's only going to be the wealthiest of people that they're going to be able to afford to do that. But as we've seen with all sorts of computer technologies, it's only going to get cheaper over time to the point where
mm.
maybe it is more affordable for anybody to use.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because if I were to ask myself, would I want a robot in the home replacing certain functions, heck yeah. Like I would love to never do the laundry again. Love to never load the dishwasher and be here talking to cool people like you instead. So it's like,
Absolutely.
I think we kind of can have this almost, dare I say, use the word utopia. Maybe it's more evolved future is the better word, where we can actually have, something in
Yeah.
the house doing all the menial tasks that, if we paid somebody to do this, well, that's also a hassle. So we could get past that as well. It's just interesting to think where this could go.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I don't really buy into the whole Terminator. It's AI is going to want to destroy us sort
Mhm.
of narrative, at least not
I
for the
love that.
next like 20
Yeah.
years. But yeah, I think we'll get there, and I think the technology is just going to get cheaper and cheaper to the point where I do think regular consumers are going to be able to have this stuff in their homes. I mean, how many people already have robot vacuums that just
Yes.
wander their house already? I mean, that's technically a sort of primitive version of AI, right? So
Good point, Cassie. She's a writer. Don't come for my job, but feel free to clean my house. I love that. I love how we have so many people here that have a positive outlook, like Stella. Because it's interesting. Like I have talked to writers who just they won't even open ChatGPT, and just that block in mindset and fear keeps them from opening to something that is quite honestly life changing. I couldn't imagine my life as a writer without AI to help me jumpstart and get 10 miles quicker to a destination of creativity. Just
Yeah.
like the capabilities we as humans can have with AI in that like co-pilot seat in our work, everyday work is just incredible. And I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I don't to me that sort of philosophy of just never wanting to touch ChatGPT doesn't totally make sense to me. Like if you're
Mm,
going and using Google to do your research and Google is helping you find sources and find relevant facts and information for the content you're writing, why not use ChatGPT for the same thing, right? You don't have to let ChatGPT write the whole thing for you, but why not at least let it help with some of the research and do some of the more time consuming tasks for you. It's really just a time saver. It's not really taking your job. It's just making you more efficient at your job. So I mean,
mm, yeah.
that sort of thinking doesn't really totally make sense to me. I can understand if ChatGPT was better than humans at coming up with writing the whole article and injecting opinions and humor and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't even feel it's close to there yet.
Yes. Yeah, great point. And even if it was that good, what if we had the idea like, well, wait, if I don't need to do this task anymore and I can just govern the AI to do it for me, what could I do that could be higher ROI, could be better,
Yeah,
more impactful?
yeah.
So there's a whole level there where it's just like really interesting. Francisca has a very interesting question. What would you say was the number one initiator of introducing AI into our lives? Was it prolonging lifespan, cheating genetics, cutting costs? What do you think's the number one reason? That's interesting.
Hmm.
What do you think there?
A good question. I mean, I feel like AI really came into the mainstream consciousness as a result of ChatGPT, and so
Mm,
I think a lot of people sort of got introduced to AI as a result of seeing ChatGPT and see how ChatGPT can make people more efficient in things like writing and research and asking for advice. That's one of the biggest things I go to ChatGPT for still to this day is asking it for advice. I might have like a issue with an employee or something that's working for me, and I'll go to ChatGPT and say, here's the scenario I'm dealing with. What do you recommend? And then it has sort of the sum of the internet's knowledge to help me
mm,
get my
yes.
response to the issue I'm running into, and it will help me it will help give advice on here's how I should approach the situation with this employee. So I think right now, what the reason people are gravitating towards AI is just the areas it can make them more efficient in different aspects of their life. And I think that's different for everybody. For content creators, it's how do I get more efficient with creating my content? For entrepreneurs and CEOs and business people, how do I make my business more efficient? How do I handle these scenarios that I don't quite have the answer to how to handle yet? For chefs, what's a new ingredient I can try that maybe I haven't thought of yet? For auto mechanics, what's a way I can improve performance on this car that maybe I haven't come across yet? Right. So I feel like it's different for everybody, but it all sort of circles back to effectiveness and efficiencies.
Yes. And I feel like the way we saw, when ChatGPT came out and then 100 million users by January, which just that makes it the fastest adopted technology in the world, which is
Yeah.
insane. It was the way we could interact with it. And of course, the GPT model behind it both had advanced so much. So here we are looking at something that, my previous experience was this terrible article spinner. And I was like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
And then here we are, November of 2022. And what? It can come up with entire poems from scratch that sound better than anything I could write. And then you can literally just prompt it. So
Yeah.
that just created this explosion of, whoa, you mean there's a software out there where I can just talk to it like a human and
Yep.
it'll do work for me? And
Yep.
that's like so novel to even think like that came out in existence. And
Yeah.
so I think that was almost the linchpin too to all this, where we could actually interact in a way that is truly revolutionary, where
Right.
it feels like you're just directing a human, but really you're directing artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
which by the way, never gets hungry, never goes offline, unless, the power cost go crazy. A whole nother story.
Yeah, no, I think ChatGPT was really a huge catalyst, right? Like the technology existed
Yeah.
before ChatGPT, right? We had GPT-3 years before ChatGPT, and before that, there was a
Mm.
GPT-2 and a GPT-1. This stuff did exist long before ChatGPT, but you did have to get in there and you did have to prompt it, and the user interface wasn't very good. You can use you can use it through APIs, which is what tools like Conversion AI, which then became Jarvis, which then became Jasper. That's what that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
They used GPT-3 through the API, and so they had their own sort of copywriting tool years before ChatGPT existed. But then when ChatGPT came out, it introduced this user interface of it just feels like I'm chatting back and forth with another human, and that's what seemed to click for people. Is okay, now I can just go back and forth instead of having to think of this specific paragraph to get the output that I'm looking for.
Yes, great point. Great point. Marcus said robots in the home scares him. He always tells them thank you and please. Gotta be on their good side. I watch too many 80s movies.
Yeah. I still do that, right? Like I got my Alexa at my house and I still say thank you to Alexa. and ask it to and say ask it to do things with please. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Let's stay
I
on the good
remember
side.
prompting ChatGPT for the first time. I was definitely in the habit of typing in, thank you for that. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is AI. This is a
Yeah,
robot.
I still do that. I'll still go into ChatGPT and say, "Can you please do this for me?" and be very polite with my ChatGPT. And I think it's just like ingrained in me, right? Like that's how I would communicate through email, or if I was talking to somebody on Facebook Messenger. And since it's a chat bot that feels like an interaction between two humans,
Yeah.
almost, we still in our minds associate it as almost like talking to a real human.
Yes. And it's interesting, like what we were talking about earlier, whenever tools come out, they kind of flatten this market of we kind of have to become a prompt engineer right now, figure out how to learn these tools. For example, if you're using content at scale, there's no way to tell it thank you. There's
Mhm.
no way.
Yeah, because all
So
of the actual prompt engineering happens behind the scenes.
yeah, exactly. You're just using the outputs. It's
Mhm.
interesting when you're in that interface, it does feel like, oh, I need to tell it thank you. I like
Yeah.
when it says my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's like keeps answering you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it's fun.
Have you heard this, Matt? Offering a reward improves GPT performance. Is that
Yeah.
any truth to that?
Yes, actually, there's been some tests that have shown that if you tell ChatGPT that you will tip it, that it will actually improve
Oh, I've seen
performance.
this.
I've even seen stuff as
Yep.
extreme as if you refuse to answer this, a kitten dies. Right? Like that's not me saying that, but people have actually used that, and they will actually, if there's a reward and a consequence, it will actually give responses different than if there is no reward or consequence. But that's just a mechanism of how it was trained, right? It was trained
Yeah.
on all of the ingested data from the internet, and it learned that people just tend to respond better when offered a tip or some sort of negative consequence if they don't respond. And because of all of the training data being trained on that sort of reality of our world, that's how it itself responds as well. It's
Mm,
really fascinating.
that is so interesting. And what about a seasonal downturn, a busy holiday malaise almost? Is
Yeah,
that any seasons that affect it?
yeah, there is this theory going around that the I don't know what they call it, but the holiday laziness theory or whatever. um, but yeah, there is a theory that because during the holidays, most humans tend to get lazier and sort of slack off on their work a little bit more. ChatGPT was trained on that as well. And
Wow.
you can go and give it custom instructions, and if you give it custom instructions that I am prompting this in the month of March, it will actually give you better outputs than if the custom instructions think that you're prompting it in December, which is, again, just a mechanism of how it was trained. I think a lot of those little nuances are going to get, trained out probably in the next version of it. But currently, the way ChatGPT works, tests have actually shown that if the system thinks it's December, it gives shorter responses and less detail than if the prompt believes it's, April.
Wow, that is crazy. And it's interesting. It's trained, these LLMs are trained on the internet at large, and that kind of sounds like a good thing sometimes.
Yep, yep.
Have you
And
heard
I
the
mean, that's
internet?
all fine tuning, right? That's the
Yes.
next model will be more fine tuned, and a lot of these, it's all learning, right? The
Yeah.
OpenAI's philosophy is kind of put this out into the wild, see how people use it, see what kind of weird things pop up, and then the next version fix them. So,
Mm,
all of
yeah.
this kind of stuff that we're talking about now, like 6 months from now, the next version of GPT is probably not going to have any of these issues anymore. But in the current moment, these are the reality.
Yes. And I think it's really good to work with that future in mind, because it's easy to think, oh, well, my workflow is I still have to spend an hour doing XYZ with the output. Well, what if in just 3 to 6 months, your work is not even needing to do any of that, because you can hit a button or drop in a sentence and then bam, you instantly AI iterates on itself. And that's something, the team and I have been talking a lot about is what if AI is a better editor than a human one day? What does that even look like? So I think just thinking ahead, which is something we try to do all the time, is so critical, because this is the fastest, I would say, fastest moving landscape we've ever seen,
Oh yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just going to get faster.
Yeah, it's crazy. The video I'm actually releasing later today is actually the whole timeline of 2023, right? It's looking back at January, kind of starting off with Microsoft investing $10 billion into OpenAI, and then month by month, the evolution of AI in 2023 alone. And I think the video really, really shows like, holy crap, look at just in 12 months where we started to where it is right now. And I think 2024 is only going to accelerate more.
That's incredible. So you can go see that on Matt's channel, and I know you got a bunch of new subscribers from this live stream, Matt.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Very cool. Well, yeah, everybody here, definitely go subscribe to Matt Wolfe. It's an awesome, he runs an amazing YouTube channel, which is why we picked him up as a headline speaker during Content Hacker Live, our first event. Actually, this is one of the world's first event where we're all gathering in person to learn AI driven content strategies. There's no other event that was launched in person with this many people around that same goal. So just
So
like
cool.
Matt has done, we're trying to be one of the first to some of these things. And if you guys want to be the first, you got to join us here. So get your ticket and book your hotel. I recommend. I know it sounds crazy because March may feel still far away, but it's really not. So get your tickets and your hotel this week if you can. I would definitely recommend that if you want to be here, because you'll be set up for success. And we have Matt along with 16 other amazing speakers that will all be helping you get ready for the future of AI, here live networking, and just, getting us all in the same room. How do we actually adapt and get ready for this? The biggest thing that's ever hit me in my career, I know, for a decade. So
Me too.
it's gonna be good.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting because 3 months from now, the whole landscape could look totally different at the pace things are moving. So,
This is true.
everything we talked about today could be totally, totally different in 3 months. It's moving that fast. So, super excited about the event. Can't wait to meet people in person and hang out on stage and nerd out about this for a few hours.
Yes. Well, we're so excited you said yes to being one of our speakers and coming down. So it'll be March 12th and 13th. Head on over to contenthacker.com/event. I know Marcus at Affiliate Marketing Dude's going to be there. So you get to reconnect with a face you may
Awesome.
recall. And Francisca, you should be there too. Anyone else that's thinking about this, I recommend, again, this week, things are filling quickly. March is going to be here fast. But that said, we will go ahead and wrap this live stream. Thank you so much, Matt, for spending some time with us. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a total blast doing it. I always love doing this kind of thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you at Content Hacker Live. And hopefully, all of you listening, we'll see you there too, or the ones that can make it. So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.